G'day, it's Heath here from pickinglessons.com. In this guitar lesson, we're looking at a bunch of Bluegrass Licks. This is volume 2. If you haven't checked out volume 1, pickinglessons.com, you'll be able to find that lesson. In that lesson, we actually looked at some fundamental licks, the G run, a bunch of C and D licks as well, and combining those in some examples. In this lesson, we're going to do a similar thing, but this time we're going to focus on the 1, the 5, and the flat 7 chords. So we have the G, there's our 1 in the key of G, the D is the 5, and the F chord. So we're going to have a look at some different licks that will fit over those. Combine those together. We'll look at some tag licks. So G, D, G, G, for example, licks that fit over the 4 measures. We'll also be looking at some back and forth between F and G. And in that example we just heard, that chord progression there is the same as Little Maggie, and that goes from G to F, G to D. And so we'll look at an example and how we can fit the licks together over that progression. So in a moment, we're going to take a look at some preparation licks, some different G licks that are really going to focus throughout what we're doing in this lesson. So we're going to do that here, but if you head to pickinglessons.com, you'll be able to get yourself the chart we're working from. So a bunch of licks there, like I mentioned, we've got these 3 preparation licks, have a bunch of turnaround licks over the G and D chords, F chord licks, and some F to G variations as well, and the example that we just heard at the beginning of this lesson. So you'll be able to get yourself a copy of the tab. You'll also find the next follow-up lessons where we do break down all the licks, and you'll also have the play along and backing tracks there for that example over the Little Maggie chord progression. So pickinglessons.com. Let's start out now by looking at 3 preparation licks. These feature throughout this entire lesson, so we're going to start with these 3 licks. These 3 licks are great. They can be played over a G chord at any time. You can close out a chord progression with this lick. You could open a progression with this lick. You could put them in the middle somewhere. They're really great. They're really fundamental to what we'll be looking at in this lesson. Okay, let's have a look at this first lick. First lick sounds like this. And the idea with this one is that we've got a couple of grace notes in there to kick us off. We've got a hammer on there into the G from the F. So a grace note is just a quick movement from the first note we're starting on F. We're not really hearing that. Very quick hammer on. Then we're going to quickly pull off from the D flat to the C. And then we're going to move on to close it out. Now, in terms of the timing there, we have a bit of syncopation, a bit of space as well. So we have 1, 2, and 3, and 1, 2, and 3, and that opening section is a fair bit of space there. Sounds great though. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. So there's our opening section, but then closes out pretty straight. Very sort of classic sound there. So there's that first lick. And again, we do use this throughout this lesson, so get to know that one to begin with. Firm with your hammer on, firm with your flick for the pull off as well. Variation number 2 here, this G lick, where we've got nice little variation there. So we're starting off on the G, down to the F, with a pull off, to the D, back to the F. That's nice, that repetition. We're taking the same idea, we're using it again, we're using it again. It really gives you some length in your ideas. It's a nice thing to do. So we're opening that lick with that repetition. Then straight to the B flat into the B. And then closing out like the first lick. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, 4. These licks all finish on that 3rd beat, by the way, and that's great because we can use them to pick up into another lick like an F or a D or a C, doesn't matter. We've got some space there to capture a couple of pickup notes, but we could also just piece that together with another G lick and that would be fine. So first lick, second lick, third lick. So this is great. Again, we've got some space in here. We're not playing too much. We have a nice, easy entry into it. Open G, slide from the F to the G to the G. So we're really focusing on the root note. 1, 2, and 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4. Then we jump into, this lick is a variation from the first volume of licks we looked at in the previous lesson. So up on that high G, second finger, so your first finger get back to the B flat to hammer onto the B, and then closing it out with the same idea as the other licks. So lick number 3, 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1 and 3, 4. Let's finish this off just by backing these up one into the next, into the next. So lick number 1 to 2, then 3, ready, and 3, 4, 3, 4. Great idea to practice that up. You can throw a metronome on and do that with a metronome. You could find a chord progression in a bluegrass style that just sits on a G and keep rolling over these G licks, and that would be a great idea as well. So really important to learn these and really start to memorize them as you go. So you're not thinking about them and you can start to recall these licks. And one of the great things about doing this is because we're playing at faster tempos in bluegrass a lot of the time, if you can call on these licks quickly and know that they're going to work, that's a great starting point, and that will morph into more freedom in your improvisation as well. So it's a great starting point. So pickinlessons.com, you will be able to find Volume 1 Bluegrass Licks lesson, but this Volume 2 lesson as well is there. You'll be able to find all the material in the members section, and you can download the tab there as well. So pickinlessons.com, I'll see you there.